One of my favorite things to do during an estate planning consultation is tell someone they do not need a trust. Now, I know that probably sounds strange coming from an estate planning attorney, but here's the truth. My job isn't to sell you the most expensive estate plan. My job is to recommend the right estate plan. Now, sometimes that means a trust, sometimes it may mean a ladybird deed, and sometimes it means a combination of both strategies. The problem is there is so much information online these days, so many people giving advice that families end up spending money they didn't need to spend, or worse, choosing the wrong planning tool altogether. So today I'm going to help you understand when a ladybird deed is enough, when a trust is worth every penny, and how to know which one is right for your family. I'm attorney Otto with the Otto Law Group, and let's get started. So not so long ago, I met with a woman. She came into my office convinced she needed a trust. She had done her homework online. She said she talked to a few friends who just got trusts. She watched a YouTube video or two, and by the time she sat down with me, she had already made up her mind about exactly what she needed. So I started asking a few questions, as I always do. I started with, who are the people you want to protect? Who are the people that caused you to be here to begin with? And we talked through her family dynamics. And then I asked her a series of questions. Do you own more than one property? No. Do you own a business? No. Do you have any minor children? Which I already knew because I had talked about her family, and she said no. I asked again, do you have or are you part of a blended family? She said no. Any special needs beneficiaries? Again, no. Any concerns with controlling an inheritance that you leave for someone after you have passed away? She said no. By the end of our conversation, I looked at her and said, I actually don't think that you need a trust at all. And instead, I recommended a ladybird deed for her home along with the other estate planning documents that she needed. So she looked at me with genuine surprise. And she asked, wait, Attorney Otto, are you telling me to spend less money than I came in here to spend with you today? And I smiled and I said, absolutely, because my goal, as I said just a while ago, isn't to sell you the biggest, most expensive estate plan. My goal is to help you make the right decision for your family. And that's exactly why I wanted to make this video, to dispel some of the myths. I want to start with explaining what is a ladybird deed and what it actually does. So, a ladybird deed, also called an enhanced life estate deed, is a uniquely Florida estate planning tool. It allows you to keep complete ownership and control of your home while you're alive. And what I mean by complete ownership and control is you can sell it, you can refinance it, you can mortgage it, you can even change your mind entirely. You don't need your beneficiary's permission because the property is still yours. Then, when you pass away, ownership automatically transfers to the beneficiaries that you've named without going through probate. That's why ladybird deeds are so popular. They are relatively inexpensive, they're simple, and when you use them appropriately, they work incredibly well. But here's what many people get confused. Just because something avoids probate doesn't mean it solves every estate planning problem that there is. Avoiding probate is only a piece of a much larger puzzle. So let's talk about trusts and the other side of this coin. A revocable living trust also helps avoid probate. But unlike a ladybird deed, it's not just focused on one asset, and that's one of the big differences. It can actually coordinate your home, your bank accounts, your investment accounts, your business interests, additional real estate, and many of your other assets into one comprehensive estate plan. It also provides a plan if you become incapacitated during your lifetime. And that's something many people forget about. Estate planning is not just about what happens when you die. It's about making sure someone you trust can step in and manage things while you're still alive, but if you're unable to take care of things yourself. One of the simplest ways I explain the difference is a ladybird deed solves one problem, a trust can solve many. A ladybird deed is designed to help your Florida home avoid probate. A trust can coordinate the entire estate that you're leaving behind. So the better question isn't which one is better. The better question is which one solves my family's problems. So when is a ladybird deed enough? In my opinion, it's often an excellent choice if your primary goal is avoiding probate on your one Florida home. You have a relatively straightforward estate. You have very clear, streamlined beneficiaries. You don't own multiple properties. You don't own a business. You don't have complicated distribution goals. And you don't need long-term management of your assets after your death. In situations like that, a ladybird deed may be exactly the right solution. Now let's talk about when I would actually recommend a trust instead. If you own multiple pieces of real estate, a trust deserves serious consideration. If you own a business, a trust often makes sense. If you have significant investments, a trust can simplify administration. If you have minor children, if you have beneficiaries who are not financially responsible, this is one of the times it makes the most sense. If you have loved ones with special needs, you definitely want to consider a trust. Or if you are part of a blended family. Those are all situations where a trust may provide benefits that a ladybird deed simply cannot. So here's a quick example. Imagine a husband and a wife who are both in their second marriage. Each has a child from a previous relationship, and their biggest goal is making sure the surviving spouse is financially secure while also making sure their children eventually receive the inheritance that they intended. That's a much more complicated situation than simply avoiding probate on a house. A ladybird deed alone usually doesn't solve that problem. A thoughtfully designed trust often can. That's why I never recommend estate planning tools in isolation. I recommend them based on the family's goals. Another question I hear all the time is, if I get a ladybird deed, do I still need a will? The answer is yes. A ladybird deed only controls that one piece of real estate. It doesn't control your bank accounts. It doesn't control your vehicle. It doesn't take into consideration your personal belongings. It doesn't control your business, or it doesn't control who gets anything else that you own. A complete estate plan is still incredibly important. So, wrapping things up, which one is better, the ladybird deed or the trust? Honestly, neither. That's like asking whether a hammer is better than a screwdriver. They are different tools designed for different jobs. Sometimes a ladybird deed is exactly the right answer. Sometimes a trust is exactly the right thing that you need. And sometimes the best plan includes both. So remember the woman I told you about at the beginning of this video? She walked into my office convinced she needed a trust. Well, she walked out with something different. Not because trusts aren't excellent planning tools. They absolutely are. But because they were not the right tool for her. And that's really the point of estate planning. It's not about buying documents. It's about creating the right plan for the people that you love. If you're trying to decide whether a trust, a ladybird deed, or some combination of these makes the most sense for your family, I'd encourage you to sit down with an experienced estate planning attorney who can evaluate your specific goals and recommend the right solution, not just the most expensive one. If you found this video helpful, please share it with someone who owns a home in Florida. One conversation today could save someone you care about thousands of dollars and tremendous amount of stress tomorrow. So until next time, plan wisely, live confidently. I'm attorney Otto, and I'll see you in the next video.